Success is not final. Failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts. Winston Churchill said this, but here's the question that might change your life. What if the thing you fear most is actually the thing you need most? Picture this, if you will. You're standing at the edge of a cliff, looking down at what feels like the end of everything you've worked for. Your business just failed. Your relationship crumbled. Your dreams seem shattered. In that moment, you have two choices. You can see this fall as your destruction, or you can recognize it as your reconstruction. Today, we're going to explore something I call resilience. It's the difference between those who crumble when life hits them and those who rise stronger than before. Because here's what nobody tells you about failure. It's not your enemy. It's your teacher, your trainer, and sometimes your greatest gift. Welcome to The Shifted Lens. In today's video, we are going to discuss why you fall and why it builds resilience. Here on the channel, we explore self-mastery through perspective, intention, and reinvention. If this sounds great to you, be sure to like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell so you can be notified when we release new videos. Now let me introduce you to Sarah. She's 28, ambitious, and had what looked like the perfect life. MBA from a top university, a six-figure job at a prestigious consulting firm, and a 5-year plan that would make any parent proud. But life had other plans. It started with small cracks, a project that didn't go as expected, a client who wasn't satisfied. Then came the bigger blow, a company restructuring that left her without a job. Within 6 months, Sarah went from rising star to unemployment line. Her savings dwindled, her confidence shattered. She felt like she was falling into an abyss with no bottom in sight. But here's where the story gets interesting. Because Sarah's fall wasn't the end of her story. It was the beginning of her transformation. The human brain is wired to avoid pain and seek pleasure. It's a survival mechanism that kept our ancestors alive when saber-toothed tigers roamed the earth. But in our modern world, this same mechanism often keeps us trapped in our comfort zones, afraid to take risks, afraid to fail, afraid to fall. What Sarah didn't know in those dark months was that her brain was already beginning to rewire itself. Neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to reorganize and form new neural connections, was working behind the scenes. Every challenge she faced, every small step she took to rebuild her life, was literally reshaping her neural pathways. Dr. Carol Dweck's research on growth mindset shows us that people who view challenges as opportunities to learn and grow are more resilient, more creative, and ultimately more successful than those who see challenges as threats to their identity. Sarah was about to discover this truth firsthand. The turning point came on a Tuesday morning. Sarah was sitting in a coffee shop, laptop open, sending out her 100th job application, when she overheard a conversation at the next table. Two entrepreneurs were discussing their failures, but they weren't talking about them with shame or regret. They were talking about them like badges of honor, like necessary steps on their journey to success. "My first business failed within 6 months, one of them said, laughing. "Best thing that ever happened to me. I learned more in those 6 months of failure than I did in 4 years of business school." That's when Sarah experienced what I call the shifted lens moment. Instead of seeing her setback as evidence of her inadequacy, she began to see it as data. Instead of viewing her fall as a verdict on her worth, she started to see it as feedback on her approach. She pulled out a notebook and started writing. Not job applications this time, but reflections. What had she learned from her experience? What skills had she developed? What did she now know about herself that she didn't know before? The list was longer than she expected. She had learned to manage stress under pressure. She had developed empathy for others going through difficult times. She had discovered inner strength she didn't know she possessed. She had gained clarity about what truly mattered to her. But here's the crucial part. Sarah didn't just think differently about her situation. She acted differently. She started taking calculated risks. She reached out to people in her network, not just to ask for help, but to offer value. She began freelance consulting, using the skills she had developed during her corporate years. The science of resilience tells us that resilient people share certain characteristics. They have a strong sense of purpose. They maintain perspective during difficult times. They build and maintain strong relationships. They take care of their physical and mental health. And most importantly, they view setbacks as temporary and specific, not permanent and pervasive. Sarah began embodying these characteristics. She volunteered for causes she cared about, giving her a sense of purpose beyond her career. She maintained relationships with friends and family, even when she felt like withdrawing. She started exercising regularly and practicing mindfulness, taking care of her physical and mental well-being. 6 months later, Sarah launched her own consulting firm. But this wasn't just about getting back to where she was before. She was operating from a completely different place. She had developed what psychologists call post-traumatic growth. She wasn't just surviving her fall, she was thriving because of it. The clients she attracted were different too. They were drawn to her authenticity, her resilience, and her ability to help them navigate their own challenges. Her business grew rapidly, but more importantly, her sense of fulfillment grew with it. Research shows that our brains are constantly changing based on our experiences. When we face challenges and overcome them, we literally build new neural pathways that make us more resilient in the future. It's like going to the gym for your mental strength. Each time you lift a heavy weight, your muscles grow stronger. Each time you face a challenge and work through it, your resilience grows stronger. But here's the key. It's not the falling that makes us resilient. It's the getting back up. It's the choice to see failure as feedback, setbacks as setups, and obstacles as opportunities. It's resilience that transforms our experience of adversity. Consider the story of James Dyson, who created 5,126 prototypes before perfecting his revolutionary vacuum cleaner. When asked about his failures, he said, "I didn't fail 5,126 times. I learned 5,126 ways not to make a vacuum cleaner." That's resilience in action. Or think about Oprah Winfrey, who was born into poverty, faced abuse, and was told she was unfit for television news. She stayed resilient and focused, seeing these experiences not as limitations, but as sources of strength and authenticity that would connect her with millions of viewers. The neuroscience behind resilience is fascinating. When we face adversity, our brains can either strengthen or weaken depending on how we interpret and respond to the experience. If we view challenges as threats, our brains activate the fight or flight response, flooding our system with stress hormones that can impair our ability to think clearly and make good decisions. But if we view challenges as opportunities for growth, our brains activate different neural networks. We become more creative, more open to new possibilities, more able to see solutions we might have missed otherwise. This is why some people seem to thrive under pressure, while others crumble. The difference isn't in their circumstances, it's in their resilience. Sarah's story illustrates a fundamental truth about human resilience. We are not defined by what happens to us, but by how we choose to respond to what happens to us. Every fall is an opportunity to rise. Every setback is a setup for a comeback. Every failure is a stepping stone to success. But resilience isn't always easy. It requires practice, patience, and often support from others. It means being willing to question your assumptions about yourself and your situation. It means being open to the possibility that your greatest challenges might become your greatest strengths. The next time you face a setback, remember Sarah's story. Remember that falling is not failing. It's learning. It's growing. It's becoming who you're meant to be. Your brain is literally rewiring itself every moment of every day. The question is, are you directing that rewiring toward resilience and growth, or toward fear and limitation? The choice is yours. Resilience is yours. The power to transform your falls into your rise is yours. So here's my challenge to you. Think about a recent setback or failure in your life, one where you exercised resilience. What did you learn from that experience? What strengths did you discover? What opportunities did it create that you might have missed? Write them down. Share them with someone you trust. Start seeing your falls not as evidence of your inadequacy, but as proof of your courage to try, to risk, to reach for something greater. Because the truth is, we don't fall despite our potential. We fall because of our potential. We fall because we're reaching for something higher, something better, something that requires us to grow beyond who we currently are. Your next fall might be your greatest rise. Your next failure might be your biggest breakthrough. Your next setback might be your greatest comeback. The question isn't whether you'll fall again. You will. The question is whether you'll have resilience to see it as the beginning of your transformation, not the end of your story. Rise up. The world needs what you have to offer. And sometimes the only way to discover what that is to fall first.